Get ready to hit the road this spring with a de-winterized RV. I'll walk you through every step to get your rig ready for adventure, from flushing your water system to checking for leaks and giving your engine a little TLC. Plus, the latest RV news and essential RV pro tip you won't want to miss. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Restless Nomads, the ultimate RV show for modern-day rubber tramps and weekend warriors alike. Whether you're chasing sunsets full-time, savoring seasonal escapes, or just hitting the road for a quick weekend getaway, this is your go-to show for tips, tricks, and tales from the road. Join us as we dive into everything RV, choosing the right rig, surviving life on wheels, and navigating the highs and lows of life on the move. From towables to motorhomes, budget hacks to campsite secrets, we've got you covered. So buckle up, nomads, and let's hit the road to adventure, 1 mile at a time. Welcome back to the Restless Nomads RV radio show. Well, check us out on therestlessnomads.com. Got all kinds of tips there, tricks, photos of our recent adventures. We're gearing up for our campground hosting job this summer. It's going to be all summer long, and we're looking forward to it. And it's only an hour and a half away from home, so that'll be nice. On our days off, we can come home and sleep in our real bed. Hey, the RV world is gearing up for spring, and there's a lot to talk about. National park reservations are filling up super fast. If you're planning a spring or summer trip, be sure to reserve your campsite today. And you will likely find that many of those parks are already sold out, and you'll be relying on snagging one of those last-minute cancellations. I'm talking about places like Yellowstone, Yosemite, super busy already. There's a major RV maintenance recall from Winnebago, so if you've got a Winnebago manufactured in the last couple of years, it's important to check your VIN number and do a search online to see if there's been any recalls on your particular unit. You want to get those straightened out. Recalls are typically safety-related. Service bulletins would be something that may affect the use of the RV, may be kind of inconvenient, but if something gets recalled, there is usually a safety reason behind it. So kind of want to put that on the front burner and get that checked. Highway construction in Utah on the I-15 corridor near Zion National Park. That's going to cause major delays throughout the spring. It's a good idea to plan alternative routes and give yourself some extra time. So there you go. If you're going through Utah near Zion, avoid I-15 this spring, or you will be stuck in traffic. And you know how much fun traffic can be when you're driving a big rig. That's it for today's RV news. Now let's dive into today's topic: de-winterizing your RV, getting ready for spring. Now, we've all been longing to get back on the road and get back into campgrounds. After a long winter, it's time to wake your RV up from hibernation and get it ready for the road again. And here's how to do it right. So I want to say our particular climate here in Klamath Falls, we frequently will see 65-degree days, and then weather will drop to 28 degrees at night. Don't think that that is going to not allow you to use your RV. Particularly if you're in your RV using it and your tanks are under a sealed underbelly, your furnace is most likely warming up those tanks. And if you're running the furnace, then your pipes inside should be okay as well. If it gets really chilly, you can open the cabinets to expose those pipes to the warmer air and prevent them from freezing. But, coming into April now, we're not seeing temps in the single digits. So we have a little less to worry about. Now, I say this as a disclaimer, if it drops below 32 and you're not using the RV, then it needs to be winterized, because it's very likely that that will cause some damage. But if you're actively using it, then you will have a little more leeway. Now, another thing, a lot of people this time of year just keep some antifreeze on hand, and sometimes this time of year, they'll go out, they'll go camping. Maybe you get an Indian summer or something like that, and they'll enjoy their RV for that brief period, and then they'll re-winterize it. And it's not uncommon for people to de-winterize and re-winterize a couple of times before the weather really warms up because they're trying to get a little bit of an extension from their season. If you don't want to de-winterize, you can still use your RV. Just know that you won't be able to use any of the water systems. So good idea to bring some kitty litter and trash bags to put in your toilet, and you can just toss that in the trash every morning if you need to. Bring some 5-gallon jugs of water for drinking and washing dishes and things like that. But as we get a little bit warmer here, we're going to start poking around the yard and getting out to that RV pad. And one of the first steps that's a good idea is to go ahead and wash and wax your RV. If your RV exterior calls for wax. If it doesn't, then don't do that. But just give it a good wash. Avoid pressure washing. I cringe when I see pictures and videos of people pressure washing RVs because that is a surefire way to water damage. The only thing that really separates the interior and the exterior of your RV from water is a thin bead of caulk. And if that caulk is not exactly perfect, then a pressure washer will definitely get in there. And it's very possible that if you hit the right spots with a pressure washer, that you'll damage that seal anyhow, even if it is good, and you'll get some water seepage to the inside. So if you maybe you just bought a used RV and it looks great, and the guy said, oh yeah, we just pressure washed it. Know that there's likely water that made it inside unless he did it very, very carefully, in which case I would still be checking for water damage on the inside, and at the very least, I would reseal that thing as soon as I got it. So get rid of all that dirt and grime, and that will allow you to check for damage. You want to look for cracks, you want to look for leaks, anything that may have deteriorated over the winter. Check all of those seals, that thin bead of caulk, all the dicor, that's that gooey stuff that is like tape and it's in between the seams of your RV. You want to make sure that that is all supple and good to go. And then a good idea just to go ahead and touch up any caulking or seals that don't look quite right. Now, you may find that you have a lot of areas where, or maybe it's been a long time since that RV's been resealed. Good idea just to go ahead and scrape it all off of there. Use some isopropyl alcohol and scrape that caulk off, get it nice and clean, and then reseal the whole thing. And that's typically advisable every 5 years or so anyway. Just reseal it with brand new caulk, everything, windows, doors, roof, any place where a hole has been cut into the RV, it needs to be sealed. Okay, let's talk about your water system. That's what typically people are referring to when they talk about winterizing an RV. They use antifreeze, and sometimes they'll blow out the lines with an air compressor, and that's okay. You'll hear mixed reactions on that. Some people say, I blew out my pipes using an air compressor. Well, they applied more than 35 PSI to their water system when they blew out those pipes. So that's where you get the damage. But you want to make sure that you have drains open, turn a faucet on inside before you do this, and also have a regulated system on your air compressor where it will not exceed 35 PSI, because that's what the pipes are meant to handle. So you don't want to exceed that, and you always want to make sure you have open faucets so that the air will move through and it won't just blow up and inflate your tanks and things like that, or inflate your pipes. You don't want that. So open all faucets, run fresh water through until all that antifreeze is gone. And some people just blow it out and call it good. Some people blow it out and then they put the antifreeze in there. And the antifreeze is just extra protection. Now know this, when you go to Walmart and you see antifreeze on the shelf, you want to make sure that you're picking up RV or marine antifreeze, not de-icer. The reason is RV marine antifreeze is not toxic, but de-icer that you put in your car's windshield washer tank is toxic. And if you put that in your water system, you won't be able to drink your water anymore. Good idea to sanitize your tanks because they've been sitting there all winter and there's no telling what grew in them. As you know, the late fall and early spring, as it starts to warm up, bacteria starts to grow. So you can just mix a small solution of bleach and water and then put that into your water system, into your freshwater tank, run your water pump for a little bit, let that sit for a little while, maybe overnight, and then drain that out, and then run several passes of fresh water through your tanks and through all the faucets. Make sure it goes through all the lines a couple of times so that you're not drinking that. Although the bleach solution likely won't hurt you because it's very diluted. You know, I'm talking a quarter cup of bleach to 5 gallons of water or so. And then make sure that you rinse that out when you're done. Like I said, can't stress it enough. Pay close attention to all of those places where the manufacturer cut a hole into the RV to install a window, a vent, a skylight, whatever. I often think when I look at these brand new RVs and they're putting in skylights that are kind of silly, you know, the brand new customer thinks, oh, this is great, a skylight, you know. When I see that, I go, oh, there's another place that I have to make sure to check the seals on, because that is going to leak eventually if neglected. The other thing you can do is check all your systems to make sure everything's running properly. Go ahead and fill those propane tanks up, whether they're on board like a motorhome or if they're the outboard ones that you can pull off and take to coastal or someplace like that. Fill up your tanks and then hook them up and open the valves and check your stove, check your furnace. If you've got a gas water heater, go ahead and check that. Make sure everything is working. Also, plug your RV in. If you're at home and you don't have 30 amp or 50 amp service, you can get a dog bone, which converts to normal 20 amp household electric. And that will at least allow you to check that your converter is working. That is what takes the AC power, alternating current power, and converts it to DC power. And it runs your battery charger, and it also runs things like your lights. If you have a DC 12-volt fridge, it'll run that. So you can check all those appliances, but you won't be able to turn your air conditioning on with a 20-amp system. If you've got a couple generators, you've got to de-winterize those too. So go ahead and, you know, if it's a pair of generators that equal up in parallel to the appropriate amperage, or if it's just one generator, go ahead and de-winterize that, get it plugged in, and make sure that everything is working appropriately. On your air conditioner, it's a good time to check your air filters. And if you've got that 30 amp or 50 amp service, test your air conditioning and make sure that that is working properly. And remember, those things have air filters. They have to be cleaned. Also remember to clean the coils on the back of the compressor unit on the roof. While you're up there, check your seals. Okay, another thing, hopefully you didn't leave your batteries out there, especially if they're wet cell lead acid batteries, all winter long. They probably should have come inside. I know. Why didn't you tell us that in October? Well, I wasn't doing the Restless Nomads radio show in October, so forgive me. But if you have batteries, it's always a good idea to bring them inside for the winter and put them on a maintenance charger or a tender, and that'll just keep them topped up. Some lithium batteries nowadays actually come with heaters within the battery, and they will kick on automatically to maintain that battery throughout the winter, which is pretty awesome. And a lot of people are going lithium. That was one of the major complaints for years, that lithium batteries did not work in sub-freezing temperatures, but they are improving, and they're getting cheaper too. By the day, lithium batteries have really improved and now can operate all winter long because of those onboard heaters. If you're driving a motorhome or something with an engine, you want to check your coolant, you want to check your oil, you want to check brake fluid and also your transmission fluid, just like you would on a car that's been sitting all winter long, for months. Make sure your fuel is fresh. You don't want that to be stale or stagnant. And you probably should have dropped some of that stabilizer in the fall. If you didn't, then you need to check and make sure that your fuel is good. Otherwise, you may have to drain that fuel tank, which is a pain. Check for dry rot, cracks as well. And this is really important. You always want to be checking your tires, but you want to check for dry rot, cracks. Also check the date on your tires. Make sure that they're within 7 years. After about 7 years, tires degrade. The rubber that they're made out of loses its structural integrity, and it can cause blowouts. And of course, you should be doing this multiple times every trip. So why wouldn't you do it when you're de-winterizing? Check to make sure that you've got the proper tire pressure in every tire on your RV. Okay, we'll get into more of this just after the break. You're listening to the Restless Nomads RV radio show on Gold Country Radio. Want to get your business noticed? Sponsor a show on KKFO Gold Country Radio on 103.3 FM and create awareness through on-air announcements, our online stream at goldcountryradio.org, and our podcasts that live on forever. Your message reaches a broad local audience while also targeting listeners who choose to tune in to the shows they love. Plus, we promote your sponsorship across our website and social media. For more information, email goldcountryradio@gmail.com. Call 541-238-6989 or visit goldcountryradio.org. Gold Country Radio, your message heard locally and beyond. This is the Restless Nomads RV radio show, back from the break. If you want to check out the website where this radio show originates, it originates on KKFO Gold Country Radio in Klamath Falls. It's also available on podcast services around the world. But check out goldcountryradio.org. That's the community station, the home of this radio show, turned podcast. It's your home for classic hits and community updates. If you go to goldcountryradio.org, you can listen live from anywhere in the world on 103.3 FM in the Klamath Falls, Oregon area. So we talked about maintenance items, things that you want to be checking for to maintain the health of your RV, the usability of your RV. Now let's talk a little bit about safety. And we kind of touched on this with tires because that's a huge safety concern. Now your RV's been sitting out there for months and you haven't looked at anything in that RV for a while. So good idea to check the fire extinguisher, make sure that it's up to date, it's not expired, and the gauge is in the green. Because when you need it, you need a good one. If you have a kitchen fire or something like that, if you can get it out early, you might be able to salvage your RV. But RVs are like kindling. So if you don't have anything to put that fire out right away, it quickly grows. It can get out of hand very quickly, and then you'll be stuck with a total loss on your hand. Most cognizant and good RVers will have some kind of emergency kit for breakdowns on the road. You may have road flares in that. You'll have tire repair tools. You'll have your jack, all those things, some first aid essentials. And you want to make sure that everything is still there. You know, if you borrowed the four-way lug nut breaker from your RV for some other project during the winter and forgot to put it back, that's not going to do you much good out on the road. So make sure everything that you need for, shoulder side or roadside breakdowns is there. Make sure you have your roadside assistance number programmed into your phone too. And make sure that your roadside assistance covers your RV. That's cheap. And many people find out the hard way. You know, they got roadside assistance on their tow vehicle, but when it comes down to it and they're sitting on the side of the road, they say, oh, no, we don't cover a trailer. So make sure that your trailer, if you are towing a trailer, has roadside assistance on that as well. For first aid essentials, just make sure everything within that kit, all your medication, if you have a personalized first aid kit, is unexpired and ready to go. Okay, on your tow vehicle, or if you're in a motorhome, you want to test your headlights and check all your lights on any RV. So all the turning indicators, your brake lights, go ahead and plug that 7-way or that 4-way, depending on what you have, if it's a towed vehicle, and make sure that that's working. And check your trailer brakes while you're at this, because that's also controlled through that 7-way or that 4-way. And you want to make sure that those are indeed working, because you don't want to find out you don't have any trailer brakes while you're going down a steep grade, especially this time of year where you might hit a patch of ice or something like that. That's no bueno. Good idea to go ahead and jump in the rig, get it ready as if you're going on a trip, and take it on a quick spin around the neighborhood just to hear strange noises that may have developed. You want to check your trailer brakes, or if you're in a motorhome, you want to check your rear drum brakes, of course. One of the things about motorhomes, and this has happened to me on a Class A motorhome, the front brakes are disc brakes. The rear brakes are generally drum brakes, unless you have air brakes, in which case you've got a $300,000 motorhome probably. But one of my disc brakes locked up in the front, and when I drove it a mile to the gas station to put fuel in it, and then I got out, I noticed that my front tire was smoking. That's because that disc had locked up around, the caliper had locked up around the disc, so the brake was engaged the entire way, and it was just overheating. And I had to take that to a brake shop to make sure that that was fixed before I could go anywhere, because eventually that'll overheat and fail and just come right off of there. Make sure the steering feels solid. Whether you're in a RV motorhome or a tow vehicle, you want to make sure your power steering fluid is topped up and that is operating correctly. You also want to make sure that your suspension is in good shape. And, man, this is important too. On trailers, especially, make sure that your bearings are packed with grease and good to go. Those need lubricating from time to time. They will overheat and cause big trouble if you don't lubricate those. There's a system called Easy Lube, in which you just hook up a grease gun and squirt some grease in there and call it good. That's the best kind to have. But if you don't have the Easy Lube system, then you will have to remove and repack those bearings. And that's a good time to do it before the first trip. Just remember that, hopefully you remembered this in the springtime, in the fall when you put it away. But if you didn't, hopefully you got away with it. The RV should be ventilated, and you can just do that by cracking a vent, especially if you've got those vent covers that don't allow rain in. It's a good idea to provide that ventilation. If you've got a musty smelling RV after the wintertime, good idea to get it ventilated now. On nice days, leave all those windows open, leave the screen door open, put a dehumidifier in there, and check for any mold, because your RV was not ventilated all winter long. And it's likely that you may have had some condensation form inside, and that's not good. Especially if there was anything in there that generated any sort of heat that will create condensation. Here's an RV pro tip for you. You want to, before you embark on your first trip, take your RV for that shakeout run. Plan for a campground that is within, an hour from home for your first trip, and just go for a quick overnight. Make sure that you're not going way out in the boondocks for your first trip, because you will likely discover that something needs to be repaired, and you may be taking some trips to the hardware store if you're going to DIY it, and you can fix it right there in your campground. That's the way I prefer to do it, and I have had to do that several times. Our first camping trip a couple years ago, I figured out that one of the faucets was not winterized quite correctly, and when we cut the water pump on, it shot one of the handles right off of the sink, and it was spraying water everywhere. So I had to shut the water pump off, go into the hardware store and the RV store to get the parts to repair that, sitting right there in the campground. If you get to the campground and figure out that things are not as they should be and you cannot DIY it, well, then you'll be forced to bring that RV home and get it into the shop and likely have to wait for a while for the shop to repair it. So you save yourself a bunch of headache and a bunch of money and a bunch of time if you learn how to do some of the simple repairs yourself. And you'll also save yourself a bunch of headache if you go ahead and check all the systems sitting right there at home before your planned trip. And then just know that as you pull that RV to the campground for the first time of the year, you'll likely work some things loose. And when you get to the campground, you may have to spend a little bit of time just troubleshooting and doing some quick repairs, especially if you're kind of a weekend warrior, you don't use it that often, and most of the time sits in the driveway. You're going to need to be kind of close by, at least have some cell signal or internet service, because you likely have forgotten to operate all those systems on the RV, and you'll need to be able to YouTube. What am I doing wrong here, right? So just remember that. Good idea to book your first trip within an hour of home. Well, thanks so much for joining me on this edition of the Restless Nomads, all about de-winterizing and getting ready for the exciting camping season. It is just around the corner. Some of us have already started. We've already been out in our RV. We just got a new one, by the way. Tell you how that's going real quick. So first brand new RV that we've ever bought, and I knew going into it that there were going to be issues and that it would need to go into the shop for warranty work and so forth. So we bought a brand new 2024 Keystone Hideout, and we're thrilled about it. We're really excited about it. But right out the gate, the 12-volt fridge did not work. And then come to find out, our converter was not working either. So it has been in the shop for about 3 weeks. They just approved the warranty work, and they are just now having those parts sent and getting to work on it. This is personal experience. We're in the middle of this whole shop wait times. And if it weren't for the fact that it's a very expensive part, the 12-volt fridge is about $2,000, I would have repaired it on my own. I'm capable of that, and I can YouTube University the heck out of learning how to repair stuff. But I figure it's under manufacturer's warranty for a year. We're not using it quite yet before we take our trip to Crescent Lake in May. So might as well have them work on it. And they're just going to store it for us as they wait for parts. So have you de-winterized your RV yet? Share your trips and tricks with us at therestlessnomads.com or connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook. That's just Facebook search The Restless Nomads and you'll see Angie and I there. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and I cannot wait to see you out there in the campground this season. This is Mike with the Restless Nomads. Until next time, safe travels and happy camping.